The airport was chaos. Delayed flights. Frustrated passengers. Announcements echoing endlessly. Malia sat curled in one of the cold metal chairs, her phone nearly dead, her patience already gone. Midnight had come and gone. And she was still stuck. Besides the frustration and airport drama, she looked so peaceful, full of life, beautiful. Any other day, any other time, Derek would have been content just watching from afar, but with her, he couldn't help it. "Let me guess," a voice said beside her, low and smooth, "your flight's been delayed for the third time." She looked up. And forgot how to speak for a second. He was distracting. Tall. Dark suit, slightly undone like he'd been traveling too long. Tie loosened. Sleeves rolled just enough to show strong forearms. His presence alone seemed to quiet the chaos around him. Malia blinked, recovering. Fourth. His lips curved into a small smile. That bad? That bad. He sat down beside her like he belonged there, like the empty space had always been his. "Derek," he said, offering his hand. She hesitated. Then shook it. "Malia." His grip was warm. Firm. A second too long. Something flickered between them. They both felt it. Neither acknowledged it. Hours passed. Or maybe minutes. Time felt strange around him. They talked about everything, and nothing serious. Bad airline food. Missed connections. Childhood stories they didn't usually tell strangers. Dreams they didn't usually admit out loud. And the strange thing? It felt easy. Too easy. Like they had skipped the awkward parts people usually go through. Like they had known each other longer than a few hours. At some point, Malia laughed, a real laugh, the kind she hadn't let out in weeks. Derek watched her like that sound meant something. It felt so real, the fact that she didn't seem to recognize him at all and she was genuinely herself was a breath of fresh air to Derek. "You do that often?" he asked. "Do what?" "Laugh like that." She shrugged. "Not really." "Then I'm glad I was here for it." Her heart did something strange. "Flight to New York has been cancelled due to bad weather." The announcement cut through the moment. Reality came crashing back. Malia stood slowly, adjusting her bag. "Well, that's me," she said. Derek nodded, but didn't move right away. Like he was deciding something. "Funny," he said quietly, "we talked all night, and I still don't know anything real about you." She tilted her head. "You know enough." "Do I?" Their eyes held. Something unspoken passed between them. Something dangerous. She should have walked away. She knew that. Instead, she said softly, "There's a hotel 5 minutes from here." Derek didn't even pretend to misunderstand. His jaw tightened slightly. "Malia." "It's just one night," she said, her voice steady even though her heart was racing. "No expectations. No complications, we will probably never meet again." He stepped closer. Too close. "People always say that," he murmured. And it's never just one night." Her breath caught. But she didn't step back. "Then let's pretend it is." The room was quiet when the door closed behind them. Too quiet. The kind of silence that amplifies everything, every breath, every glance, every inch of space between two people who shouldn't want each other this much. Derek stood by the door for a second, watching her. Like he was giving her time to change her mind. She didn't. Instead, she stepped toward him. Slowly. Deliberately. And that was all it took. The distance between them disappeared in a heartbeat. His hands found her waist like they had always belonged there. Her fingers gripped his shirt, pulling him closer. The kiss wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was everything they hadn't said all night. Heat. Hunger. Tension finally breaking. Like they had both been waiting for permission. Hours later, the city was still asleep. Soft light crept through the curtains. Malia opened her eyes. Derek was beside her, asleep, one arm still wrapped loosely around her. For a moment, she let herself feel it. The warmth. The closeness. The rightness of it. And that scared her. Because it wasn't supposed to feel like this. It was supposed to be simple. Forgettable. Easy to walk away from. But it wasn't. Not even close. Carefully, she slipped out of his arms. Got dressed quietly. Paused at the door. She looked back at him one last time. Something in her chest tightened. Then she left. No note. No number. No last name. Derek woke up to an empty room. And a feeling he couldn't shake. Something important had just slipped through his fingers. And for the first time in a long time. He wanted something he didn't have. He didn't know her last name. Didn't know where she was going. Didn't even know if he'd ever see her again. But one thing was certain. He wouldn't forget her. Not after that night. Not ever. 3 months later. Malia stood in front of the glass building, staring up at it like it might swallow her whole. Steel. Power. Money. Everything about it screamed you don't belong here. She tightened her grip on her folder. She needed this job. Not just wanted. Needed. Get it together, she muttered under her breath, stepping inside. The lobby was immaculate. Polished floors. Quiet conversations. People who looked like they had their lives perfectly put together. Malia walked to the reception desk. Name? The receptionist asked politely. Malia Vale. I'm here for the 10 a.m. interview. The woman nodded and typed something quickly. Top floor. Mr. Kane will see you. Malia froze. Mr. Kane? Yes. Her stomach dropped. No. It couldn't be. Kane. It was a common name. It had to be a coincidence. Right? The elevator ride felt longer than it should have. Her reflection stared back at her from the mirrored walls. Calm. Composed. Nothing like the girl who had walked into a hotel room months ago and made a decision she still couldn't explain. It was just one night. She had told herself that over and over. So why did it still feel like something unfinished? The doors opened. Silence. Luxury. Power. The assistant outside the office smiled politely. He's expecting you. Malia nodded, her pulse picking up. She knocked. Come in. The voice hit her first. Low. Controlled. Familiar. Her heart stuttered. She pushed the door open. And there he was. Derek. But not the Derek she remembered. This version was colder. Sharper. Sitting behind a large desk like he owned not just the room, but everything in it. Including her. For a second, neither of them moved. Neither spoke. Then his eyes lifted from the file in front of him, and landed on her. No recognition. Just assessment. Professional. Distant. Like she was just another candidate. Malia's chest tightened. He didn't recognize her. Miss Vale, he said smoothly, gesturing to the chair in front of him. Have a seat. Her legs moved before her mind caught up. She sat down. Tried to steady her breathing. Tried to ignore the fact that the man who had kissed her like she was the only woman in the world, now looked at her like she was nothing more than a resume. Tell me about yourself, he said. Just like that. Normal. Routine. Like that night had never happened. Malia forced herself to speak. I recently completed my hospitality training. I've worked front desk and guest services, and I... Why this company? He interrupted. Her eyes flickered to his. God, those eyes. Still the same. Still dangerous. Because it's one of the best, she said carefully. And I want to grow somewhere that values excellence. He studied her. Not like before. Not like that night. This was different. This was calculated. Controlled. Distant. Derek leaned back slightly in his chair. Your experience is average, he said bluntly. The words landed harder than they should have. Malia felt it. But she didn't show it. I learn fast, she replied calmly. I'm sure you do. Silence stretched. Cold. Uncomfortable. Nothing like the effortless conversation they once had. Derek closed the file. I don't think you're the right fit. Just like that. Final. Sharp. Done. Malia's stomach dropped. For a split second, something cracked inside her. Not just because of the job. But because of him. Because the man who had looked at her like she was unforgettable, couldn't even recognize her now. She stood. Composed. Dignified. Thank you for your time, she said. He nodded once. Already moving on. Already done with her. Malia turned and walked to the door. Every step felt heavier than the last. She didn't look back. Wouldn't give him that. Wouldn't give herself that. She opened the door. Stepped out. And left. The door clicked shut behind her. Silence filled the office again. Derek didn't move for a moment. Then. He frowned. Something felt off. He leaned back slowly, his mind replaying the interview. The way she spoke. The way she looked at him. That voice. That presence. A flicker of something unfamiliar tugged at him. Recognition. His eyes snapped to the door. Too late. She was already gone. But the feeling didn't leave. If anything, it grew stronger. Derek stood abruptly. For the first time since she walked in. His composure cracked. Because something told him. He had just made a mistake. The door had barely closed before Derek moved. Something wasn't right. He stood there, staring at it like if he looked long enough, it would open again. Her voice. Her eyes. The way she held herself, calm, but guarded. Familiar. Too familiar. Derek walked back to his desk slowly, his mind replaying every second of that interview. Miss Vale. Malia. Malia. The name hit differently now. His jaw tightened. No. It couldn't be. Could it? He picked up the file again. Read it. Then read it again. Malia Vale. Hospitality. Recently certified. Nothing extraordinary on paper. And yet. Nothing about her had felt ordinary. His fingers stilled on the page. A memory surfaced. A laugh. Soft. Unexpected. Real. His chest tightened. You do that often? Do what? Laugh like that. Derek froze. His eyes darkened. That laugh. That voice. His head snapped toward the door. Damn it. He moved fast. Out of the office. Past his assistant. Sir? Where is she? He demanded. The assistant blinked. She just left. Derek didn't wait. The elevator took too long. Every second stretched. His mind was racing now, connecting everything he had missed. The airport. The night. The way she looked at him. The way she didn't react when he dismissed her. Not surprise. Not confusion. Something else. Recognition. The elevator doors opened. Derek stepped out and scanned the lobby. Crowds. Movement. Too many people. Not her. He walked faster. Then faster. Pushing through people, ignoring the looks he was getting. His pulse was louder than the noise around him. Outside. Nothing. Just the street. Cars passing. People moving. Normal. Too normal. He stopped. Looked around again. She was gone. Derek exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. For the first time in a long time. He felt something close to frustration. No. Not frustration. Loss. She was right in front of you, he muttered under his breath. And you let her walk away. His jaw clenched. That night wasn't forgettable. It wasn't random. And she hadn't looked at him like a stranger. She had known. Which meant. She remembered him. And she still walked away. That realization hit differently. Deeper. Derek turned back toward the building, his expression shifting. The calm, controlled man from earlier was gone. Replaced by something sharper. More focused. More dangerous. Find her, he said the moment he stepped back inside. His assistant looked startled. Sir? The candidate. Malia Vale. I want everything. There was no hesitation in his tone. No room for questions. Today. Derek walked back to his office slowly. But inside. Everything had changed. Because now he knew. That night hadn't been one-sided. She hadn't forgotten. And neither had he. He stopped at his window, looking out over the city. Somewhere out there. She was living her life like nothing had happened. Like he didn't exist. A slow, dangerous smile touched his lips. That's not how this ends, he said quietly. Because this time. He wasn't going to let her disappear. Malia didn't stop walking until she was 3 blocks away. Only then did she slow down. Only then did she breathe. Her chest felt tight. Not because of the job. But because of him. He didn't even recognize me, she whispered to herself. The words shouldn't have hurt. It was supposed to be nothing. One night. No expectations. No attachments. So why did it feel like something had just broken? She shook her head and kept walking. Reality didn't wait for emotions. Rent was due. Bills were piling up. And she had just lost the one opportunity she was counting on. Get it together, Malia, she muttered. Because no one was coming to save her. Across the city. Derek was already 3 steps ahead. Go on, he said, leaning back in his chair as his assistant placed a file in front of him. Everything we have on Malia Vale. He opened it. And read. Silently. Carefully. Every detail. Front desk experience. Temporary jobs. Short contracts. Nothing stable. His eyes narrowed. Financial records, he asked. Limited, his assistant replied. But from what we could gather, she's behind on rent. 2 months. Derek's jaw tightened. And before that? Supporting someone. Medical expenses. It looks like she was paying for treatment, but it increased recently. His fingers stilled on the page. Something shifted in his expression. She's been carrying everything alone, he said quietly. It made sense now. The way she held herself. Strong. Controlled. Guarded. She hadn't walked away that morning because it meant nothing. She had walked away because she couldn't afford for it to mean something. Derek leaned back slowly. Thinking. Calculating. Where is she now? He asked. His assistant hesitated. Currently working part-time at a small hotel on the east side. Night shifts. A slow silence filled the room. Then. Derek smiled. Not soft. Not amused. Something else. Buy it. The assistant blinked. Sir? The hotel. His voice didn't change. Didn't rise. Didn't hesitate. I want it under my name by the end of the week. Sir, it's not exactly a high-value property. I'm not buying it for value. Derek's eyes lifted. Sharp. Decisive. I'm buying it because she's there. Sir, is she someone important? The assistant asked. Very important. Understood, the assistant said quickly. Derek stood, walking toward the window again. Looking out over the city. Somewhere in that skyline. She was working. Struggling. Pretending that night didn't matter. His jaw tightened slightly. You walked away once, he murmured. His reflection stared back at him. Colder now. More certain. You won't do it again. Because this time. He wasn't leaving anything to chance. And Malia Vale had no idea. That the next time she walked into work. Everything would be different. Malia adjusted her uniform as she walked toward the hotel entrance. It was nothing fancy. Small. Quiet. Slightly worn at the edges. But it was steady work. And right now. That was all she needed. She pushed the door open. And immediately knew something was off. The lobby was too clean. Too polished. Staff standing straighter than usual. Whispering. Watching. Malia slowed her steps. What happened? She asked the receptionist quietly. The girl leaned in, eyes wide. You didn't hear? Hear what? The hotel was sold. Malia blinked. What? This morning. New owner. Everything's changing. Her stomach tightened. Do we still have jobs? I think so, the receptionist whispered. But everyone's nervous. He's supposed to come in tonight. He. Malia exhaled slowly. Of course. Because her life clearly needed more uncertainty. All right, she said, forcing calm into her voice. Let's just get through the shift. Hours passed. But nothing felt normal. Every small sound made people look up. Every car outside made heads turn. And then. The doors opened. Silence fell. Malia was behind the desk when it happened. She didn't look up immediately. Didn't think much of it. Just another guest. Until the energy in the room changed. Heavy. Sharp. Controlled. Her fingers stilled on the keyboard. Her heart skipped. She knew that feeling. Slowly. She lifted her head. And everything inside her stopped. Derek. Standing in the middle of the lobby. Impeccably dressed. Commanding. Unavoidable. Her breath caught. No. No, no, no. This wasn't possible. But he was there. Real. Looking exactly like the man from that night. And the man from that office. Except now. He wasn't distant. Now. He was focused. On her. Their eyes locked. And this time. There was no confusion. No hesitation. Recognition hit. Hard. Malia's pulse roared in her ears. Because the look in his eyes. Was nothing like before. This wasn't indifference. This was intent. Derek took a slow step forward. Then another. The entire room seemed to fade behind him. Malia couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. He stopped right in front of the desk. Right in front of her. Close enough. Too close. Miss Vale, he said smoothly. But his voice. Lower now. Warmer. Dangerous. Her throat felt dry. You. She stopped. Because what exactly do you say to a man who once meant nothing? And now suddenly meant everything? You're working here, he continued, like he already knew the answer. Of course he did. Malia forced herself to stand straighter. Professional. Controlled. Even though her heart was anything but. Yes, sir. The word hung between them. Something flickered in his eyes. Something dark. Possessive. He leaned in slightly. Just enough that only she could hear. I was hoping I'd find you here. Her breath caught. This wasn't coincidence. This was deliberate. Malia pulled back slightly, her voice steady but tight. You own this place now? Derek straightened. Calm. Certain. Yes. One word. Heavy with meaning. The world tilted slightly beneath her. Because suddenly. Everything made sense. The interview. The way he looked at her. The way he ran after her. He knew. And now. He had done this. For me? She asked quietly, before she could stop herself. Derek didn't hesitate. Didn't look away. Yes. The honesty of it hit harder than anything else. Malia stared at him. Stunned. Overwhelmed. Shaken. Why? She whispered. His gaze softened for just a second. Just enough for her to see it. Because, he said quietly, I don't walk away from things I want. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Because the way he said it. She wasn't just something he wanted. She was something he had decided to keep. And Malia suddenly realized. Walking away this time. Wasn't going to be easy. Come with me. Derek didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Malia stared at him. No. The word came out before she could soften it. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. Then something darker. More interested. Malia, he said quietly, stepping closer, this isn't a request. Her pulse spiked. There it was. That control. That authority. And she hated how much it affected her. I'm working, she replied, forcing her voice steady. Then consider this work. Before she could argue again, he turned and walked toward the private offices. Not even checking if she would follow. He already knew she would. Malia stood there for a moment, heart racing, mind screaming at her to stay exactly where she was. But her feet moved anyway. Because as much as she wanted to fight him, she needed answers. The door closed behind them with a quiet click. Silence. Too much silence. Derek didn't speak immediately. He walked past her, loosening his cufflinks slowly, like he was taking his time. Like he wasn't affected. But she could feel it. The tension. The heat. It filled the room. You rejected me. Her voice broke the silence, sharp and controlled. Derek paused. Then turned. His eyes met hers. No denial. No confusion. I did. The calmness of his answer made something inside her snap. You looked me in the eyes, she continued, stepping closer, and told me I wasn't good enough. His jaw tightened slightly. And then, she added, her voice dropping, you come here, and buy the entire hotel? Silence stretched between them. Heavy. Charged. Say something, she demanded. Derek moved then. Slowly. Deliberately. Closing the distance between them. You want the truth? He asked, voice low. Yes. I didn't recognize you. The words hit. Hard. Malia flinched before she could stop herself. Derek noticed. Of course he did. But I knew something was wrong the moment you walked out, he continued, stepping closer. Something didn't sit right. Her breath quickened. I remembered your voice first, he said quietly. Then your laugh. Her chest tightened. And when it hit me, His voice dropped further, rougher now. You were already gone. They were close now. Too close. Malia could feel the heat coming off him. The same heat she remembered. The same one she had tried to forget. You still rejected me, she said, softer now, but no less hurt. Derek's gaze didn't waver. And I've been fixing that mistake ever since. Her breath caught. This, she gestured around the room. This is fixing it? Yes. No hesitation. No apology. Malia shook her head, overwhelmed. You can't just control everything because you made a mistake. Derek stepped even closer. Now there was barely space between them. I'm not controlling everything, he said quietly. His hand lifted. Paused. Then brushed lightly against her wrist. I'm choosing you. The contact sent a shock through her. Her body reacted instantly. Traitorously. She should pull away. She knew she should. But she didn't. Because his eyes. They weren't cold anymore. They were intense. Hungry. Focused only on her. You don't get to do that, she whispered. Why not? Because, her voice faltered, because it wasn't supposed to matter. Derek's expression softened for a brief second. It mattered to me. Her heart stuttered. And it mattered to you, he added quietly. She didn't answer. Couldn't. Because he was right. The silence stretched. Then his hand moved again. Sliding from her wrist to her waist. Pulling her just slightly closer. Her breath hitched. Tell me to stop, he murmured. Her lips parted. But no words came out. Because she didn't want him to stop. And they both knew it. His head dipped slightly. Closer. Closer. Then. A knock on the door. They both froze. The moment shattered instantly. Malia stepped back, breath uneven, heart racing. Reality rushed in. Sir, a voice called from outside. We need you in the lobby. Derek didn't move for a second. His eyes still locked on hers. Then he exhaled slowly. Stepping back. But the intensity didn't leave. This isn't over, he said quietly. Malia swallowed. No, she replied, her voice barely steady, it's not. And as she walked out of that room, she knew one thing for certain. Whatever this was between them, it was far from finished. The knock had barely faded when Derek stepped back. Control snapped back into place. But his eyes. Still on her. Still burning. Sir, we need you in the lobby, the voice repeated. Derek didn't respond immediately. Didn't look away. Go, Malia said quietly, needing space, needing air. A beat. Then he straightened. The distance returned. But the tension stayed. This isn't over, he said again, lower this time. Then he walked out. Malia stood there for a second longer. Trying to steady her breathing. Trying to ignore how her body still reacted to him. It didn't work. By the time she stepped back into the lobby, everyone was gathered. Staff lined up. Whispers gone. Attention sharp. The knock had barely faded when Derek stepped back. Control snapped back into place. But his eyes. Still on her. Still burning. Sir, we need you in the lobby, the voice repeated. Derek didn't respond immediately. Didn't look away. Go, Malia said quietly, needing space, needing air. A beat. Then he straightened. The distance returned. But the tension stayed. This isn't over, he said again, lower this time. Then he walked out. Malia stood there for a second longer. Trying to steady her breathing. Trying to ignore how her body still reacted to him. It didn't work. By the time she stepped back into the lobby, Everyone was gathered. Staff lined up. Whispers gone. Attention sharp. Derek stood at the center. Commanding. Effortless. This hotel is now under new management, one of the senior staff was saying, gesturing toward him. And this is Mr. Derek Kane. A few polite nods. A few nervous smiles. But Derek barely acknowledged any of it. Because his gaze locked onto her. Melia felt it instantly. That pull. That focus. Like the entire room had disappeared again. He didn't look away. Not once. Moving forward, he said smoothly, addressing the staff now, though his eyes still flicked back to her, there will be changes. Improvements. Standards will be raised. His voice was calm. Controlled. Professional. But every time their eyes met, it wasn't professional at all. It was something else. Something dangerous. And one more thing, he added. A slight pause. I'll be staying here. Murmurs rippled through the room. Malia's heart dropped. No way, someone whispered. Derek continued like it was the most normal thing in the world. I want a room prepared. Immediately. His gaze slid back to her. Intent. Deliberate. Something, close. Her breath caught. This wasn't subtle. This was a move. A direct one. And she had no idea how to stop it. The days that followed. It started quietly. Small things. Looks that lingered too long. Moments that stretched just enough to feel dangerous. Derek only came in at night. Always at night. And always. When she was there. During the day, he was gone. Running his other hotels. Handling business. Being the man she had seen behind that desk. But at night. He was different. Present. Focused. Watching. Always watching. Malianitist. Of course she did. How could she not? Every time she moved. His eyes followed. Every time she spoke. He listened. Every time she tried to ignore him. He made it impossible. So she tried something else. Avoidance. Can I switch shifts? She asked her manager 2 days later, keeping her tone casual. Why? He asked. Just, need a change. He frowned. We're short on nights. It's not a good time. Of course it wasn't. Melia forced a smile. Right. Of course. She walked away, frustration building. Because no matter what she did, she couldn't escape him. And the worst part? A small, traitorous part of her. Didn't want to. Cat and mouse. It became a pattern. She stayed behind the desk. He lingered in the lobby. She walked away. He followed. Not closely. Not obviously. But enough. Enough to remind her. He was there. Waiting. Watching. One night, she slipped into the storage room just to breathe. Just to get away from the constant pull. The door had barely closed behind her. When she felt it again. That shift in the air. Her heart dropped. Slowly. She turned. Derek was standing in the doorway. Of course he was. You're avoiding me, he said calmly. Melia exhaled sharply. You think? He stepped inside. Closed the door behind him. The space instantly felt smaller. Hotter. You've been running for days, he continued. And you've been following me, she shot back. A pause. Then. A faint smirk. I prefer to think of it as, staying close. Her pulse spiked. This isn't a game, Derek. No, he said, stepping closer, it's not. Now they were too close again. That dangerous distance. Then stop acting like it is. His eyes darkened slightly. I'm not playing, he said quietly. Her breath hitched. Then what are you doing? A beat. Then. I'm waiting. For what? His gaze dropped briefly to her lips. Then back to her eyes. For you to stop pretending you don't feel this. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Because that was the problem. She did feel it. Every time he looked at her. Every time he got too close. Every time he said her name like it meant something. And she didn't know how much longer she could fight it. Because this wasn't just attraction anymore. This was something deeper. Stronger. More dangerous. And it was only a matter of time. Before one of them gave in. Just a few days in. Malia had had enough. 3 days. 3 nights. Of him watching. Waiting. Getting closer without ever touching. It was driving her insane. She spotted him the moment he walked into the lobby that night. Like she always did. Like her body was trained to. And this time. She didn't look away. Instead, she walked straight toward him. Derek noticed immediately. His posture shifted. His attention sharpened. Good. Because she was done hiding. Office, she said as she passed him, not even slowing down. A command. He didn't hesitate. Of course he didn't. The door closed behind them harder than necessary. Silence hit instantly. But it wasn't the quiet kind. This was loud. Charged. Waiting to explode. Malia turned to face him. Her chest rising and falling faster than she wanted. What do you want from me? She demanded. Derek didn't answer right away. He watched her. Like he had been doing for days. Say it, she pressed, stepping closer. Because this, she gestured between them, this isn't normal. No, he said quietly. It's not. Then stop acting like it is. A pause. Then he moved. 1 step. Then another. Closing the distance. You want me to stop? He asked. Her breath caught. Yes. A lie. They both knew it. Derek's gaze dropped briefly to her lips. Then back to her eyes. Say it again, he murmured. Her heart slammed. Stop. He stepped closer. Now there was barely space between them. Make me believe it. Her breath hitched. Because she couldn't. Because every part of her body was reacting to him. Leaning into him. Wanting him. And she hated it. You don't get to control this, she said, her voice softer now, less certain. Derek's hand lifted slowly. Carefully. Like he was giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her jaw. Light. Barely there. Electric. You're still pretending, he said quietly. Her eyes fluttered for just a second. And that was all it took. His control snapped. His hands slid to the back of her neck, pulling her closer. And then his lips were on hers. The kiss wasn't slow. Wasn't careful. It was everything they had been holding back. Days of tension. Months of unfinished desire. It hit all at once. Malia gasped against his mouth. Then kissed him back just as hard. Her hands gripped his shirt, pulling him closer like she needed him there. Because she did. Derek's grip tightened, his other hand sliding to her waist, anchoring her against him. No distance. No hesitation. Just heat. Just need. Just them. You said to stop, he murmured against her lips, his voice rough now. She shook her head slightly. Breathless. I didn't mean it. That was all the permission he needed. The kiss deepened. Slower now. More deliberate. Less anger. More something else. Something dangerous. Malia felt it in the way he touched her. In the way he held her. Not just like he wanted her. Like he had decided on her. Her fingers tightened in his shirt. "This is a mistake," she whispered, even as she leaned into him. Derek pulled back just enough to look at her. "No," he said quietly. His thumb brushed her lower lip. "This is the one thing I'm sure about." Her heart stuttered. Because the way he looked at her. It wasn't casual. It wasn't temporary. And that scared her more than anything else. "Derek," she started. But he shook his head slightly. "No more running, Malia." His voice was softer now. But no less certain. "Not from me." Her chest tightened. Because she didn't know if she was ready for what this meant. But she also knew. She didn't want to walk away again. And neither did he. The door barely had time to close before he pulled her back to him. No hesitation. No space. Malia's back met the wall, her breath catching as Derek's hands found her waist again, firm, certain, like he had already decided she wasn't going anywhere. "Still want me to stop," he murmured against her lips. She shook her head. That was all it took. The kiss deepened instantly. Hotter. Slower. More dangerous than before. Because this time, there was no anger left. Just want. His hands moved like he was learning her all over again. Memorizing. Claiming. Every touch deliberate, every pause filled with tension that made her pulse race. Malia clung to him, her fingers tightening in his shirt, pulling him closer like distance wasn't something she could handle anymore. "Derek," his name left her lips like a warning. Or maybe a surrender. He answered by lifting her effortlessly, her breath catching as she wrapped her legs around him instinctively. Everything blurred after that. The room. The walls. The world outside. None of it mattered. Only him. The way he looked at her like she was the only thing in the room. The way he touched her like he had been holding back for too long. The way she responded without thinking. Without fear. Without control. Because with him, she didn't want control. Hours slipped by unnoticed. Time didn't exist in that room. Only heat. Only closeness. Only the quiet moments in between where everything slowed just enough for her to feel it. That dangerous, unfamiliar sense of right. Morning came too soon. Soft light spilled through the curtains. Malia woke slowly. Warm. Comfortable. For a moment. She forgot. Then she felt it. Derek's arm wrapped around her waist. Her breath stilled. Carefully, she turned her head. He was still asleep. Relaxed. Unaware. Different. Not the controlled man from the office. Not the intense man from the night before. Just him. And something about that made her chest tighten. Because this wasn't supposed to feel like this. Not soft. Not calm. Not real. Her eyes drifted around the room. Then they landed on her phone. Several missed calls. Her stomach dropped. Messages followed. Rent overdue. Final notice. We need payment immediately. Her chest tightened instantly. Reality. Cold. Unforgiving. She sat up slowly, the warmth of the bed disappearing as panic crept in. She couldn't afford this. Not the distraction. Not the attachment. Not him. Because men like Derek didn't live in her world. And if he found out, if he saw her like this, struggling, drowning, he would think the worst. That she stayed. That she gave in. Because of what he had. Her stomach twisted at the thought. No, she whispered. She wouldn't let that happen. Derek stirred behind her. Don't go, he murmured, voice still thick with sleep, his hand tightening slightly around her. Her heart cracked a little at that. But she forced herself to move anyway. I have to, she said quietly, already reaching for her clothes. He opened his eyes slowly, watching her. Something in his expression shifted. You're leaving again, he said. Not a question. Malia didn't look at him. I have work. Derek sat up, running a hand through his hair, his gaze never leaving her. You're avoiding me. She froze for half a second. Then continued dressing. I'm being realistic. He stood. Walked toward her. Too close. Too familiar. That's not the same thing, he said quietly. Her chest tightened. You don't understand my reality, she replied, finally looking at him. Something flickered in his eyes. Then let me in. The words hit deeper than they should have. For a moment. Just a moment. She wanted to tell him everything. To let someone else carry the weight for once. But then reality hit again. Harder this time. Her pride. Her fear. Her independence. No, she said softly. Derek's jaw tightened. Why not? Because I don't need help. A lie. A painful one. He stepped closer again. This isn't about needing help. It's about not shutting me out. Her breath caught. I'm not shutting you out, she said quickly. Yes, you are. The silence felt heavy. Because he was right. But she couldn't admit that. Not when everything felt so fragile. I have to go, she said again, quieter now. This time. He didn't stop her. Didn't reach for her. Didn't try to pull her back. But his eyes. They stayed on her. Sharp. Unsettled. Malia, he said, just before she reached the door. She paused. Don't disappear again. Her chest tightened. Because the truth was. She already was. And as she walked out of that room, the distance between them returned. Not because the feeling was gone. But because reality had finally caught up. And this time, it wasn't something she could ignore. 3 days. That's how long it took for Derek to notice something was wrong. At first, it was small. Malia moved a little slower. Paused a little longer between tasks. Her smiles didn't quite reach her eyes. But by the third night, it was impossible to ignore. She looked exhausted. Not just tired. Drained. Like she was running on nothing but will. Derek leaned against the far side of the lobby, watching her. Again. She hadn't avoided him completely. But she had shifted. Kept conversations short. Stayed behind the desk. Never lingered. And yet, she was still here. Which meant she needed this job. That thought alone didn't sit well with him. Malia. Her name came out low. Controlled. She looked up. Forced a small smile. Yes, Mr. Kane. Formal. Distant. He didn't like it. Come to my room, he said. Her expression flickered. Suspicion. Hesitation. Bring a notebook, he added calmly. A beat. Then she nodded. Yes, sir. His room was quiet. Too quiet. Malia stepped inside, trying to ignore how familiar it felt to be alone with him again. How can I help you? She asked, keeping her tone professional. Derek turned to face her fully. And for a moment, he said nothing. Just looked at her. Taking in everything she was trying to hide. You look exhausted, he said finally. She stilled. I'm fine. A lie. Immediate. Derek's eyes narrowed slightly. No, you're not. Her jaw tightened. I said I'm fine. Silence stretched. Then he stepped closer. "You've been avoiding me," he said quietly. "Working more. Sleeping less." Her breath hitched. "You don't know that." "I do." Because he had been watching. Because he always watched. "It's none of your concern," she said, her voice sharper now. Something flickered in his expression. Not anger. Something else. Concern. "It is," he replied, just as quietly. She shook her head, stepping back slightly. "No, it's not." Derek exhaled slowly. Then turned. "Stay here," he said. "What?" "I'll be right back." Before she could argue, he was already walking toward the door. It clicked shut behind him. And just like that, the tension disappeared. Malia stood there for a moment, trying to steady herself, trying to stay upright. But the moment she was alone, her body gave in. The exhaustion she had been fighting for days hit all at once. Her legs weakened. She sank onto the edge of the bed. Just for a second. Just to rest her eyes. When Derek returned, the room was silent. Too silent. His eyes landed on her immediately. Curled slightly on the bed. Still. Asleep. Something in his chest tightened. He stepped closer slowly. She didn't stir. Didn't move. Didn't even react when he set the painkillers down beside her. That's when it hit him. This wasn't just tired. This was exhaustion. The kind that comes from pushing too far. For too long. Derek crouched slightly beside the bed, studying her face. Pale. Too pale. Dark circles under her eyes. Tension still lingering even in sleep. "She's been running herself into the ground," he muttered under his breath. His jaw tightened. Because now, he needed to know why. By morning, he had answers. And he didn't like any of them. "Say that again," he said quietly into the phone. "Her rent," the voice replied. "She managed to pay 1 month recently. Late. Still owes another." Derek's grip on the phone tightened. And before that? Medical expenses. Regular payments to a care facility. His eyes darkened. For who? A woman listed as her mother. Silence. Then. "There's more," the voice added carefully. "There was a major expense last month. Surgery." Derek's jaw clenched. "That's why she fell behind on rent," the voice continued. "An ongoing treatment." A pause. "Chemotherapy." The word landed heavy. Cold. Derek closed his eyes briefly. Everything clicked into place. The exhaustion. The extra shifts. The distance. She wasn't avoiding him because she didn't feel anything. She was drowning. And still trying to stand on her own. His hand ran slowly through his hair. "She didn't say a word," he murmured. Of course she didn't. Pride. Strength. Stubborn independence. All the things that made her who she was. And all the things that were breaking her quietly. Derek's expression hardened. Not cold. Focused. Decided. Because now. This wasn't just about wanting her. This was about protecting her. Even if she fought him every step of the way. And Malia had no idea. That he had just stepped into a part of her life she had tried desperately to keep hidden. Malia woke to silence. Soft sheets. Dim light. A room that wasn't hers. Her heart jumped as she sat up quickly. Then it hit her. Derek's room. Her eyes moved to the side table. Painkillers. A glass of water. And suddenly, memory came rushing back. She had fallen asleep. Her stomach dropped. No, 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 she whispered, running a hand through her hair. That wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to look weak. Not in front of him. Especially not in front of him. The door opened and Malia froze as Derek stepped in. His gaze landed on her immediately. Sharp. Searching. But not cold. Worse. Concerned. You're awake, he said. She straightened quickly, pushing the blanket aside like it burned. I'm fine. The words came too fast. Too automatic. Derek closed the door behind him slowly. No, he said quietly. You're not. Her jaw tightened. I said I'm fine. He didn't argue. Didn't raise his voice. He just walked closer. And that somehow made it worse. You're working 2 jobs, he said calmly. Her breath caught. You're barely sleeping. Her pulse spiked. You collapsed in my room. Her chest tightened. And you still owe rent. Silence. Heavy. Sharp. Dangerous. Malia stared at him. You had me followed, she asked, her voice low. Derek didn't flinch. I made a call. That's not better. Her anger came fast now. Hot. Defensive. You don't get to dig into my life like that. I do when you're running yourself into the ground. Her eyes flashed. You don't get to decide that. Derek's jaw tightened slightly. Then tell me I'm wrong. She opened her mouth. Then closed it again. Because she couldn't. And he knew it. That's what I thought, he said quietly. The calmness in his voice only made it worse. You think this gives you the right to what? She shot back. Fix everything? Control everything? I'm trying to help you. I don't need your help. A lie. A painful one. Derek stepped closer. Yes, you do. Her breath hitched. No, I don't, she said again, softer now but just as stubborn. Then why are you doing this alone? He asked. That question. That one question. It hit deeper than anything else. Because the answer was simple. Because she had no one. But she wasn't going to say that. Not to him. Not when everything already felt too exposed. Because I can, she said instead. Derek studied her for a long moment. Then. His voice softened. This isn't about capability, Malia. Her chest tightened. It's about not letting yourself break. The words landed gently. But they shook something inside her. Because she was close. Closer than she wanted to admit. I'm not breaking, she whispered. Derek didn't respond immediately. He just looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time. She felt seen. Completely. It terrified her. I know about your mother, he said quietly. Everything inside her went still. No, she said immediately, shaking her head. You don't get to. She's in a care facility, he continued. You've been paying for her treatment. Her eyes burned. Stop. There was a surgery last month. Stop it. And chemo. Stop. Her voice cracked. Silence crashed down around them. Malia turned away quickly, her hands shaking now. You had no right, she said, her voice breaking despite her effort to hold it together. Derek stepped closer. Slower this time. Careful. I needed to understand, he said. Understand what? She snapped, turning back to him. How pathetic my life is. His expression hardened slightly. That's not what I think. It's what you see. No, he said firmly. It's what you're afraid I see. That hit. Because it was true. Because she was afraid. Afraid he would think she stayed for money. Afraid he would think she needed him. Afraid he would see her as less. I don't want your help, she said again, quieter now. I don't want you thinking I'm with you because of what you have. Derek's gaze softened slightly. Is that what you think this is? Her silence answered him. He exhaled slowly. Malia, he said, stepping closer again, if this was about money. His hand lifted. Paused. Then gently brushed a strand of hair away from her face. I wouldn't be here. Her breath caught. Then why are you? She whispered. His eyes held hers. Steady. Certain. Because it's you. Because I'm in love with you. I searched for you desperately, it killed me that I could not recognize you when you walked into my office that day. It hurts me deeply seeing you suffer like this. The simplicity of it broke through her defenses more than anything else. Her chest tightened. Because she wanted to believe him. So badly. But wanting and trusting were two different things. I can't do this, she said softly, stepping back. Derek's expression shifted. You already are. She shook her head. No. I mean this. She gestured between them. Whatever this is, it's too much. Silence. Heavy. Final. Derek didn't stop her this time. Didn't reach for her. But his voice followed her anyway. I'm not walking away from you, Malia. She paused at the door. Her hand tightening on the handle. Then you're going to get hurt, she said quietly. And then. She walked out. Leaving him standing there. And for the first time, Derek realized something dangerous. This wasn't just about getting close to her anymore. This was about not losing her. And that was going to be a much harder fight. Malia didn't expect the call. Miss Vale? She shifted the phone against her ear as she stepped outside the hotel, her break barely 10 minutes long. Yes? This is regarding your rent. Her stomach dropped instantly. I know, she said quickly. I'm working on it, I just need a little more time. That won't be necessary. She froze. I'm sorry. Your balance has been cleared. 2 months paid. In advance, actually. Silence. Cold. Heavy. That's not possible, she said slowly. It's already been processed. Her grip tightened on the phone. Who paid it? A pause. I'm not authorized to disclose that. Of course. Her chest tightened. Right, she said quietly. Thank you. She hung up. And stood there. Still. Because there was only one person. Only one person who would do something like that. No, she whispered. He wouldn't. He couldn't. But it didn't stop there. Later that afternoon. Another call. This one from the care facility. Miss Vale, we wanted to inform you that your mother's outstanding balance has been fully covered. Malia stopped walking. What? Yes, including the surgery from last month, and upcoming treatment sessions. Her heart started racing. That's not possible, she said again, her voice unsteady now. It's already been handled. Handled. Just like that. Like it was nothing. Who paid it? She demanded. I'm afraid we can't. She hung up before they could finish. Her hands were shaking now. Because this wasn't a coincidence. This was him. It had to be. And suddenly, everything he said in that room came rushing back. I'm trying to help you. It's about not letting yourself break. If this was about money, I wouldn't be here. Her chest tightened painfully. Because this was exactly what she was afraid of. That night, she didn't wait. She didn't avoid him. Didn't hide. She walked straight to his door. Knocked once. Hard. It opened almost immediately. Derek stood there. Like he had been expecting her. Of course he had. Did you do it? She asked, no greeting, no hesitation. His expression didn't change. Do what? Her eyes flashed. Don't do that, she snapped. Don't pretend. Silence. Then. Yes. Just like that. No denial. No excuse. Her breath caught. Why? She demanded. Derek stepped aside slightly. Come in. I'm not here to sit down, she said sharply. Then stay standing, he replied calmly. A beat. Then she walked in anyway. The door closed behind her. And the tension hit instantly. You had no right, she said, turning to face him. I told you I didn't need your help. Derek watched her carefully. You needed it. That doesn't mean you get to decide that. His jaw tightened slightly. I wasn't going to watch you fall apart that I told you. It hurts me saying you suffer when I can help. I wasn't falling apart. The lie sounded weaker this time. Because now. She knew he knew everything. You were working yourself into the ground, he said, his voice lower now. Losing sleep. Skipping meals. Carrying everything alone. I am here, willing and able, why can't you use me? That's my choice. No, he said firmly. That's what you've been forced into. Her breath hitched. Because that hit too close. You think this fixes anything? She asked, her voice breaking slightly. You think paying my bills makes this okay? Derek stepped closer. I just wanted to give you room to breathe. I didn't ask for that. I know. The quietness of his answer made her chest tighten. I didn't do it for gratitude, he continued. Then why? She whispered. His eyes held hers. Steady. Unmoving. Because you needed it, he said again. And because I can. Because I love you. Her eyes burned. That's exactly the problem, she said. You can. You always can. You can fix things, control things, make decisions for people. I didn't do this to control you. Then what did you do it for? She demanded. A pause. Then. For you. The words landed softly. But they shook something deep inside her. Because there it was again. That certainty. That focus. That dangerous way he chose her. Without hesitation. I don't want to owe you, she said quietly. Derek's expression shifted. You don't. Yes, I do. No, he said, stepping closer, his voice softer now. You don't owe me anything, Malia. Her breath caught. Then what is this? She whispered. He didn't answer immediately. Instead. He reached for her. Slowly. Giving her time to step back. She didn't. His hand wrapped gently around her wrist. Grounding. This, he said quietly, is me not letting you carry everything alone. Her chest tightened painfully. Because that was what broke her. Not the money. Not the control. But the fact that someone finally saw how heavy it all was. And refused to let her carry it alone. Her eyes filled. But she blinked it back quickly. I don't know how to do this, she admitted softly. Derek's gaze softened. You don't have to. Her heart stuttered. Then what do I do? A beat. Then. Stay. With me, be with me, use me for whatever you want. The words were simple. But he meant everything. And Malia didn't know if she was strong enough to walk away from that. Chapter 13, The Woman Who Belonged. Days passed, just when she was getting used to his love and attention, the worst happened. Malia felt it before she saw her. That shift in the airs. The kind that didn't come from Derek this time. But from someone else entirely. The lobby had gone quieter. Sharper. Staff stood straighter. Voices lowered. Malia looked up from the desk. And froze. She was stunning. Tall. Effortlessly elegant. Dressed like she had never known struggle a day in her life. Every detail perfect. Every step controlled. She didn't look around like a guest. She walked in like she already owned the place. And then her eyes landed on Derek. A slow smile curved her lips. Derek. Malia's stomach tightened. Because she knew that tone. Familiar. Personal. Dangerous. Derek turned. For a split second. Something crossed his face. Not warmth. Not quite surprise either. Recognition. Annabelle, he said evenly. The name settled heavily in the air. Malia's fingers stilled on the desk. Annabelle. Of course. She flew in this morning, someone whispered nearby. Didn't even call ahead. Malia didn't look away. Couldn't. Because now. Annabelle was walking toward him. Confident. Certain. Like there was no doubt she belonged there. And when she reached him, she didn't hesitate. Her hand lifted. Brushed lightly against his arm. Too familiar. I was starting to think you were avoiding me, she said lightly. Derek didn't move. Didn't lean into the touch. But he didn't step away immediately either. I've been busy. Annabelle's gaze flicked over him, amused. I can see that. Then. Her eyes shifted. And landed on Malia. Just like that. Everything changed. The temperature in the room dropped. Because that look. It wasn't curiosity. It was assessment. Calculation. Comparison. Malia felt it instantly. And for the first time, she became aware of every difference between them. Her simple uniform. Her tired eyes. Her world. Versus everything Annabelle represented. Polish. Power. Perfection. Who is she? Annabelle asked casually. Like Malia was just another detail. Derek didn't answer immediately. His gaze moved to Malia. And held. Too long. Too deliberately. She works here, he said finally. The words were neutral. But something in his tone wasn't. Annabelle noticed. Of course she did. Her smile shifted slightly. Is that all? She asked, her voice still light, but sharper now. Silence. Tension. Derek's jaw tightened just slightly. Yes. The word landed. And Malia felt it. More than she expected. Because technically, it was true. But it didn't feel like it. Not after everything. Not after him. Annabelle hummed softly. Good, she said. Then she turned back to Derek like Malia no longer existed. We should talk. Derek didn't move. I'm working. Annabelle smiled again. No, she said softly, stepping closer, you're hiding. That got his attention. Malia looked away then. Because suddenly. This wasn't her place. This was his world. And Annabelle fit into it perfectly. She's not going anywhere, Annabelle added, glancing briefly toward Malia again. Is she? The words were subtle. But the message wasn't. Malia swallowed. Because for the first time, doubt crept in. Maybe she didn't belong here. Maybe she never did. And maybe she never would. Across the room, Derek's gaze snapped back to her. Like he felt that shift. Like he knew exactly what she was thinking. But for once, he didn't move. Didn't stop it. And that silence. That hesitation. Said more than anything else. Malia straightened slightly. Professional again. Distant again. "Welcome to the hotel," she said politely. Annabelle's lips curved. "Thank you." But her eyes said something else entirely. "You don't belong here." And for the first time since meeting Derek, Malia wasn't sure she could prove her wrong. Annabelle didn't wait. She walked straight up to the desk. Malia looked up. Calm. Steady. Up close, Annabelle was even more intimidating. Perfect posture. Perfect control. The kind of woman who never second-guessed her place in any room. "Let me guess," Annabelle said lightly, her eyes scanning Malia without hiding it, "you're the distraction." The word hung there. Deliberate. Malia didn't flinch. "I work here," she said evenly. Annabelle smiled faintly. "I'm sure you do." There it was. The dismissal. Subtle. Sharp. Malia held her gaze. "And I'm not a distraction," she added calmly. Annabelle's brows lifted slightly. "Oh," she said. "Then what exactly are you?" "A beat." Malia stepped out from behind the desk. Closed the distance. Not aggressive. Not hesitant. Certain. The woman he chose, she said. Silence. Real silence. Because that wasn't defensive. That was a claim. Annabelle's expression shifted, just slightly. Enough. Behind her, Derek had gone completely still. Watching. Every word. Every move. And for the first time since this started, something like satisfaction settled in his chest. Malia didn't stop there. She stepped closer to him. Close enough that there was no confusion. No distance. No doubt. And then she reached for his hand. Not gently. Not shyly. She took it. Held it. Like she had every right to. Derek's fingers closed around hers instantly. Firm. Certain. That was all the confirmation he needed. Annabelle saw it. Of course she did. And this time, her smile didn't quite hold. "So that's what this is," she said softly. Derek stepped forward. Not away from Malia. But with her. "Not what," he said calmly. "Who?" His tone changed. No hesitation. No distance. "This is Malia." His grip on her hand tightened slightly. "And I'm with her." The words landed clean. Final. Annabelle's gaze sharpened. "You're serious?" Derek didn't blink. "Yes." No explanation. No apology. Just truth. The kind that leaves no room to argue. Annabelle let out a quiet breath. Studying them both now. Really seeing it. The way Malia stood beside him. The way Derek didn't let go. The way there was no space left between them. Not physically. Not emotionally. "Well," she said finally, smoothing her expression back into place, "that's unexpected." Malia didn't respond. Didn't need to. Because this time, she wasn't unsure. Derek made it even clearer. "There's nothing here for you anymore, Annabelle." The words were calm. But absolute. No room. No doubt. No past to revisit. Annabelle held his gaze for a moment longer. Then nodded once. "I can see that." A pause. Then her eyes flicked to Malia. One last look. Not dismissive this time. Measured. "Take care of him," she said quietly. Malia didn't hesitate. "I intend to." That was it. Annabelle turned. And walked away. Just like that. No drama. No scene. But something had shifted. Because for the first time, Malia didn't feel out of place. She stood beside Derek. Still holding his hand. Still steady. And this time, she didn't question it. Derek looked down at her. Something softer in his eyes now. Something proud. "You just claimed me," he murmured. Her heart skipped. "I didn't mean to," she said. "A lie." He smiled slightly. "Yes, you did." His thumb brushed over her hand. "And I'm not letting you take it back." Her breath caught. Because this time, she didn't want to. And just like that, the past was gone. And what they had was finally undeniable. The moment Annabelle walked out, the silence didn't leave. It shifted. Because now, everyone had seen. Malia stood in the middle of the lobby, her hand still in Derek's. And for the first time, there was no hiding it. Not the way he held her. Not the way she stood beside him. Not the way neither of them let go. Around them, staff pretended to move. Pretended to work. But no one was really doing anything. Because this was the moment everything made sense. The looks. The tension. The rumors. All of it. It had started the day Derek bought the hotel. Whispers behind desks. Quick glances. "Did you see how he looked at her? He doesn't talk to anyone like that." Why her? Then the late nights. Him always showing up when she was on shift. Always watching. Always near. That's not normal. He's here every night. Something's going on. Then the office door closing. Too many times. Too long. She's been in there again. No one gets called up that often. Then the change in her. The exhaustion. The distance. Maybe she's overwhelmed. Or maybe she's getting what she wanted. And now. This. Her hand in his. In front of everyone. Not hidden. Not denied. Claimed. Malia felt it all. Every stare. Every unspoken thought. Every assumption. And this. This was exactly what she had been afraid of. She slowly pulled her hand away. Not harshly. But enough. Derek noticed immediately. His gaze shifted to her. "Don't," he said quietly. Her chest tightened. "They're all watching," she whispered. "I know. That's the problem." Derek's expression didn't change. "No," he said. "That's exactly why we don't hide." Before she could respond, he stepped forward. Into the center of the lobby. Commanding attention without asking for it. Everyone. That was all it took. Movement stopped. Conversations died instantly. Now. They weren't pretending anymore. They were listening. Derek's voice remained calm. Controlled. But there was something else underneath it now. Finality. "There's clearly been speculation," he said. A few people shifted uncomfortably. "Good. There's no need for that anymore." His gaze moved across the room. Then. Back to her. Malia felt it. That grounding. That pull. Then he said it. Clear. Direct. Unshakable. "Malia and I are together." A ripple moved through the room. Not loud. But undeniable. Because hearing it was different from guessing it. Malia's heart pounded. Derek didn't stop. And before anyone draws their own conclusions, he continued, his voice steady, "We met before I ever bought this hotel." Silence. Real silence. Because that changed everything. "She didn't know who I was," he added. A pause. "And she didn't want anything from me." Malia's breath caught. Because he said it like it mattered. Like it was important that they understood. I pursued her, he continued. No hesitation. No shame. And she resisted. A few surprised looks now. Because that didn't fit the narrative. Not at all. Derek's gaze sharpened slightly. So whatever assumptions are being made, he said, you're wrong. The message was clear. Don't disrespect her. Not silently. Not openly. Not at all. Then. He stepped back. But he didn't move away from her. Instead. He stood beside her again. Equal. Present. And this time. He reached for her hand again. Slower. Deliberate. Giving her the choice. Malia hesitated for half a second. Then. She let him. Their fingers intertwined. Stronger this time. Not hidden. Accepted. Derek continued. This changes nothing about how this hotel is run. His voice sharpened slightly. Malia is still an employee here. A beat. She earns her position. Like everyone else. Malia felt that land. Because that mattered. More than anything. I expect her to be treated with the same respect as any other staff member, he added. Not a request. A warning. And she will receive no special treatment. Now. He looked at her. Not controlling. Not overriding. Acknowledging. Malia straightened slightly. Because this part. Was hers. I don't want any, she said, her voice steady despite everything. All eyes shifted to her. I'm here to do my job, she continued. The same way I was before any of this. A pause. And I expect to be treated the same way. Silence. But different now. Less sharp. Less judging. More uncertain. Because this wasn't what they expected. Not from her. Not from him. Derek's thumb brushed lightly against her hand. Subtle. But grounding. And for the first time. The whispers didn't feel as loud. Because now. There was truth. Out in the open. And no space left for lies to grow. Still. Malia knew this wasn't over. People wouldn't just stop talking. They wouldn't just accept it overnight. But this. This was the beginning of something different. Not hidden. Not fragile. Real. And as she stood there beside him. Still holding his hand. She realized something quietly. She wasn't running anymore. Final chapter, choosing us. The lobby felt different now. Quieter. Not because people had stopped talking. But because the talking didn't matter anymore. Malia had expected it to get worse. The whispers. The looks. The quiet judgment. And at first. It had. A few cold shoulders. A few careless comments. A few moments that made her chest tighten. But she didn't break. She showed up. Every shift. Every responsibility. Every expectation. She worked harder than before. Not to prove them wrong. But to prove something to herself. That she belonged here. Not because of him. But because of who she was. And slowly. Things changed. Not overnight. Not easily. But steadily. Respect replaced doubt. Silence replaced whispers. Because no one could deny it anymore. She earned her place. Derek noticed everything. The way she carried herself now. The way she didn't look over her shoulder anymore. The way she stood beside him. Not behind. Not beneath. Beside. And somehow. That made him want her more. Not less. It was late afternoon one day when she knocked on his door. No hesitation this time. No fear. Just certainty. He opened it almost instantly. Like he had been expecting her. Like he always did. For a moment. They just stood there. No words. Because none were needed. Then. She stepped in. The door closed behind her softly. "I've been thinking," she said. Derek leaned against the edge of the table, watching her carefully. "Oh no, am I in trouble?" A small smile touched her lips. "Usually." She walked closer. Slow. Intentional. "I spent so much time trying not to need anyone," she continued. His expression shifted. Softer now. "I thought if I let you in, it would change everything." "It did," he said quietly. She nodded. "It did," she agreed. A pause. "But not in the way I was afraid of." Her eyes met his. Clear. Steady. "I didn't become weak." His jaw tightened slightly. "You never were." She stepped closer. Close enough to feel the warmth between them. "I just stopped doing everything alone." That hit him. Because that was everything he had been trying to give her. Without breaking her in the process. "And I hated that at first," she admitted softly. A breath. "But now." Her voice dropped slightly. "I don't." Silence. Not heavy. Not tense. Full. Derek stepped closer. Slowly. Like he was still giving her space to change her mind. She didn't. "I meant what I said," he told her. "I'm not walking away from you. I know. And I won't let you disappear again." A small smile. "You don't have to." That stopped him. Because that was new. "I'm not running anymore," she said. And this time. He believed her. Completely. Her hand found his. Familiar now. Easy. "I'm staying," she added. A beat. "Not because you found me." His eyes held hers. "But because I want to, I want you, I want your help and everything." That was it. No grand speech. No dramatic moment. Just truth. And somehow. That meant more. Derek pulled her closer. Not rushed. Not desperate. Certain. His forehead rested lightly against hers. "And I love you, I will do anything for you," he said quietly. No hesitation. No doubt. Just her. Always her. And for the first time. There was no fear attached to it. No running. No hiding. No second guessing. Just two people. Who found each other once. Lost each other. And chose not to make that mistake again. Outside. The city moved on. Unaware. Unbothered. But inside. Everything had changed. Because this time. It wasn't temporary. It wasn't uncertain. It wasn't fragile. It was real. And it was for keeps. Thank you for listening to the very end. You are a rock star. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a red heart below. Subscribe, like, comment and share. This will help our channel grow.